Okay, guys, it's Mr. Gibbons again. This lesson is over elements of a personal narrative, and specifically, I'm going to be talking about your Unit 1 performance task. And I talked about it in class, and I explained the performance task like this. So, a performance is when you go see something, a group of people or an individual, and they are showing you something that they've been practicing. So some examples are athletes, actors. If you go see a movie, you go see a play, people who play instruments, bands, musicians. Those are people who give you performances. Okay, so take the Mavs, for example. The Dallas Mavericks, the NBA team. They practice all the time, constantly. They work out, they exercise, they run plays, they do drills, they do all of this stuff constantly. And then the game, that's when they get to go and perform for the fans. And that's them proving to the fans that they worked really hard. They're proving to the fans the things that they have learned and that they know their stuff and that they're a good basketball team. Same thing if someone plays a musical instrument. If somebody plays the clarinet. Every time they're at home and they practice that clarinet, they're memorizing sheet music, they're playing different notes, they're trying to hit high notes that they're not very good at, and then they have a rehearsal or a recital or a band concert, and they come and they perform in front of other students, or they perform in front of parents or somebody else. That is them proving that they learned something, that they know something, and that they've been working hard, right? So the performance is when people prove to another group of people or to another person that they've learned something and that they've been working hard. Okay, so a performance task, as it applies to my class, is a time where you guys as students are going to prove to me, the teacher, that you learned something during the unit. Okay, and there are 6 units throughout this year, and we went over these at the beginning of the year, and I talked to you about each of them. I'm not going to go over them right now, but every single unit that we have this year, you guys are going to have to go over a performance task. You're going to have to do a performance task that shows me that you learned something during my unit. So in this unit, we're talking about things like characters, conflict, theme, and specifically we're going to be looking at personal narratives and elements of stories, realistic stories. Okay? So your performance task at the end of Unit 1 is going to be to write a personal narrative. But before I get into that, the first thing I want to do is I want to talk to you about what a personal narrative is. And so a personal narrative is a real life story that is meaningful to you. So the key words here are real and meaningful. Real means it's the truth. It's not made up. It actually happened to you. There are real people, real events, and real places. So it's a real thing that truly did actually happen to you. It's not fake. It's not made up. There's no aliens and monsters. It's a real thing that happened in your life, and it needs to be meaningful to you. Don't tell me about the time that your mom took you to the fiesta and you bought a Snickers, okay? Nobody cares about that. You need to talk about a meaningful event. And I'm going to tell you a specific meaningful event that you're going to write during Unit 1. But in general, a personal narrative has to be important. It needs to be meaningful. The character or the person that is speaking needs to have learned something or have grown in some way. It needs to matter to the individual. Otherwise, why tell it, right? Why tell a story that doesn't matter? So the personal narrative, it needs to be meaningful to you. And your performance task, it's going to be a personal narrative that is not only meaningful to you, but it has to be something that you have learned from and something that you have grown from. And with the personal narrative, there's going to be 7 main characteristics. And these characteristics are things that make a personal narrative good and are things that are needed to have a personal narrative. And I'll get into this later. I don't want to really dive into it right now because that's a little complicated. So let's just focus on these right now. And I'll talk about elements of stories on down the way, okay? So number 1, it needs to be focused on one event. That's super important. This is not a diary. It's not a biography or an autobiography. This is not you telling me your life story. This is one event from your life that you feel is important that you want to share with me, the reader, okay? One event that you pick. 2, it has real people and real places. Like I said already, it is true. It's not made up. It's not fake. There are real people and real places. And then number 3, you need to tell me why it's important. So you've picked this important event from your life. You need to tell the reader, why is it important? What did you learn from it? How did you grow from that experience? Number 4, you need to use transitional words. That is with all writing. You need to say things like first, next, or you need to set it up. You say when I was little or when I was 12. Okay, you need to let the reader know what the order of things that you're talking about is occurring in. Number 5, you need to make sure that you use vivid description and sensory language. Okay, so right now if you're watching this video, go ahead and close your eyes. All right, obviously I don't know if you are. But I'm going to read 2 sentences. They're going to be the same thing. I'm going to have the same subject and the same predicate. And what that means is I'm going to have the same thing, and it's going to be doing the same thing in both sentences. All right? So in the first sentence, the dog ran. The dog ran. I want you to picture that and imagine it in your head. The dog ran. Okay, so everyone that is watching this video is picturing something completely different. You all should hopefully be picturing some type of dog running, but you don't know what the dog looks like. You don't know where he's running. You don't know why he's running. You don't know what he's running after. Okay, you don't know what the running looks like. All of that is left up to chance because I didn't tell you. Descriptions and vivid language and sensory language, those things let your reader know what they need to imagine and what they need to picture. And when you write a personal narrative, you need to include that so I know and so I can see what you're describing to me. Okay, so go ahead and close your eyes again. I'm going to do the same sentence, but I'm going to add in some details. The little yellow dog sprinted quickly through the field of golden flowers, chasing after the white rabbit. One more time. The little yellow dog sprinted quickly through the field of golden flowers, chasing after the white rabbit. Okay? It's the same sentence. It's still a running dog. But I added descriptions, and so now everyone who's watching this video is picturing the same thing. Now you know that it's a little yellow dog, right? Probably a golden retriever puppy. It's a little yellow dog, and he's sprinting quickly, right? Doing that full-on dog gallop. And he's chasing a white rabbit through a field of golden flowers, right? So now everyone has kind of the same image in their head. That's why descriptions are important. Number 6, you need to have dialogue. Dialogue is when characters interact with each other. They speak to each other. Real life, we have dialogue all the time. You hardly ever go one single day without somebody speaking to you or you speaking to somebody else. So your personal narrative, since it's a real life event, needs to have dialogue. You need to be communicating with other people, or other people in your story need to be communicating with each other. Number 7, you need to have a well-organized structure. That means you need to have a beginning, a middle, and an end. You need to start the story and set the scene. Where is this occurring and who does it involve? You then need to have a middle that unfolds naturally. Okay, so don't go from the beginning and then all of a sudden be like, and then in the end I learned that love conquers all. No, don't do that. You need to have a middle. And then an end is your conclusion. You need to explain why it matters and kind of bring it all together. Okay? So these are the elements of a personal narrative. And once again, a personal narrative is a real life story that is meaningful to you. Now let's take a look at your performance task. There's a lot of words on this because this was written for me. This was written by people at the district for teachers to look at, and then we're supposed to tell you. But I want you guys to take a look at this on your own, and I'm going to guide you through it. So your Unit 1 performance task, it says, in this performance task, students will examine a meaningful event that changed their understanding of themselves or that of someone they know. You will give specific details and the reason they think that this was significant. Okay? Here is your performance task question. What event changed your understanding of yourself? So at the end of Unit 1, at the very end of it, you guys are going to be writing a performance task, which in this case is a personal narrative, where you're going to talk about an event in your life, a true event, that changed how you viewed yourself. So something that you learned about yourself. Maybe it's the time where you got an art set for Christmas and you realized you love art. Okay? Maybe it's the time that you came to school and you went in math class, you got an A on a test that everybody else did bad on, and you realized you're really good at math, and maybe that's what you want to do when you get older. Maybe it's the time that your dad took you to work and you realized that you wanted to follow in his footsteps and you wanted to be whatever he is. Okay? This event has to be a time where you learned something about yourself, something that changed your understanding of yourself. We're going to do this on a Google document. That means you're going to write it online and submit it to me. And after everybody has written their personal narratives, we are going to be sharing them. So make sure it is something that you are proud of, that you are not embarrassed of, because you will have to share it and that will be part of your grade. You're going to share it with your classmates. And I'm not going to be super strict on this. You guys haven't had a speech class yet. I'm not expecting you to actually do all of these things that they're saying there. What I need you to do, because Mr. Gibbons is hard of hearing, I need you to speak clearly and speak loudly, like I've been speaking during this video. Don't mumble like this, because if you talk like this and you don't change your inflection or your voice, I'm going to not have any idea what you're saying. Okay? You need to open your mouth and speak correctly. Don't mumble, all right? Because then I can't hear you. So speak correctly. That's going to be part of your grade. And while your classmates are reading their personal narratives, it's going to be up to you guys to summarize their story in like 2 sentences. Not going to be that difficult. And once again, this performance task is going to be at the end of Unit 1, not right now. Right now, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be learning about personal narratives and realistic short stories and story elements. And then at the end of Unit 1, you're going to prove to me what you know. Remember, that's what a performance is. You're going to prove to me that you learned something during Unit 1. Okay? All right, once again, guys, if you have any questions, reach out to me so that I can answer them. Don't sit there and not know. Reach out and ask. All right? Okay, I'll see you guys in the next video.